Good morning, team. What an interesting night it was for Fantasy and Supercoach. If you had a bunch of Knights players, you are absolutely crushing it from round one leading into this round two. It has just been an absolute massacre from a bunch of their players. And obviously this game helped with Ponga going nuts. Bradman Best scoring what he should have scored last week. Like, he could have had back-to-back 70s in my opinion with a 77. You had Lucas absolutely crushing it. Greg Marzou averaging 60.5 is absolutely incredible at his price point of 486 when you did buy. Sorry, 481. So he was spectacular. And Fletcher Sharp, man, 68 in this one, 61 the average over 2 weeks. So if you did manage to start with sort of three of them, that was probably the length that you could go to. If you went four, you probably are in a little bit of trouble for round four. But I think three, the scoring that these guys have produced, 100% you've picked the right decision. Round four will still be tough, but you've made up so many points in these 2 weeks that it's not a massive issue. Ponga's 86. Man, that was a slow second half too, apart from the finishing touches with that Asako non-try there with Ponga and Best coming over and absolutely obliterating him there and both getting 10-point play with the tackle on that one. So massive news for Ponga owners. One error, one missed tackle for 86 points. 3 tries early, 3 out of 5 goals. Nothing spectacular, but when he's going to score across the board and he's kicking in the red zone as well. Picked up 2 forced dropouts after getting, I think, 1 or 2 last week as well. Another escape from in-goal. 4 kick defusals, kicks for 104 metres, so a little bit less than last week, but still picked up 3 points there. He's running the footy plenty, which just means tackle breaks, it means offloads, and great run meters. 202 for him. Another 20 points on that front, and only had the one missed tackle when that one error off the bomb. So Ponga, a terrific guy to start with. He was priced at a 54 average, and we've got 74 out of him across 2 weeks. So I'm very, very glad that I did at least go with Ponga. The other option was Greg Marzou, and Garrick was going to be the combo, Marzou Garrick, and that would have worked out awesome as well. So doesn't look like you can go wrong. The only way you could go wrong is if you only had one night, I think, would be your big sort of pain point, when other people have 2 or 3. So 26-12, I'm very, very worried about the Dolphins going forward. I can't see them doing well at all this year. I do expect them to be at the bottom of the ladder. I don't have much in attack, and as much as Isaiah Katoa with this 75, picked up the try and also the try assist for their couple of tries. He was good at times, and he kicked for plenty of meters. He made lots of tackles. He ran the footy plenty, but their attack in general, the only time they looked pretty solid was when Nicarima had ball in hand and sweeping on that left-hand side, but also straightening. So when he was able to run, not that just sideways line, which they kept just sending it side to side and side to side and just not having too much. And then he went through the middle as well. Obviously that try got pulled back. But that's, that was a quality effort and some of his work down the left-hand side. But in attack, they weren't great. Defensively, the Newcastle Knights just had too much firepower with guys like Fletcher Sharp and, sending it to Best early on the back of Marzou with his offloads. Man, those offloads, that hurts. That hurts so much as a non-owner. And thank goodness for me with Greg. I was always buying him in Supercoach. It was going to be like, do I have him in both? And went with Ponga in both, which has worked out pretty well with his 124 as well, which is very much ideal. So Ponga's 86. The big thing with these guys is with the buy in round 4, can you purchase them next week, or do you just wait for round 5 with a couple of them? And, guys like Greg, unfortunately, after this game, unless he comes out and gets like 40 next week, will be well over 550. And the way he's playing right now, it's absolutely keeper level, but he will come up against better teams as well. And that's something to think about with a few of these guys. Greg and Bradman, they're both looking incredible. They're both still centers and wingers. So it's not always going to be a perfect game for them with the opposition that they do come up against. But for Greg to get 69 without a try assist, it's absolutely ridiculous. 10 tackle breaks, 6 offloads, 209 meters gained, 4 kick defusals as well. And still had a couple errors in his game. Congrats to Greg. Congrats to owners of him. You've absolutely got away with the steal price, which is super exciting. For Katoa, 75 for him, as I said, was involved in everything, and that's obviously good news if you were looking to purchase him. I mentioned at the start of the season that his low 40s price point that he was coming in at, he was going to eclipse that as he improves as a player. And for him to still do really well in fantasy in this game where they were getting beat pretty early and obviously came back a little bit, got themselves in the game a bit. He's now got a 62 average across his first 2 weeks. So it's looking good for him to definitely improve where he's at coming into and finishing out this 2025 season. But Lucas, on the other hand, can you buy him now? Look, I'd have more faith in buying Lucas for next week and the consistency, because when they come up against better teams, he's more likely to continue to score well. There's that one. But if you wanted to get a nice cash generator next week, then Greg, I think, fits that bill. Bradman Best is probably somewhere in the middle. Got a 77 this week, but has the odd game where he can get the 30 odds when the attacking stats doesn't come or whatever it is. Defensively, he was pretty solid as well at 19 for 3 misses. But those two guys, I think with Greg, just that little bit cheaper, which is nice. And we know he has the pedigree of being a 50 guy before. And it wasn't like this. It was usually in a lot of tries. And yes, he had great tackle breaks, but this is, it's very much looking like that. But he's able to do it with offloads as well, which is absolutely scary as a non-owner. And if anyone was going to be a purchase next week out of the Knights, I do think it's Greg. And then for the other guys, you're waiting until round 5 and making some decisions around that. But Lucas, 73, so happy with this pick. He's been in my team from the start. The try, thank you to Fletcher Sharp for that one. Just a little cherry on top of a really good game there, and picked up 47 tackles for 3 misses, 145 run meters. This time it wasn't including a big line break. A big line break and a big run. So that's the win on this one, and that was expected because that game, as we said last week, was played on the other side of the field for the most part. Seyfarth and Lucas on that side didn't get the footy that they wanted, apart from that time where Lucas had that big run, but they used him plenty, coming back on the inside. He is a worker, which is great. His bloody right arm is strapped to nothing. My goodness. That doesn't look like he can move that right-hand side, but it doesn't matter when you defend like that, when you play like that. He hits and sticks for the most part. You obviously had Herbie Farnworth on that side, and I think there was 1 or 2 occasions where Herbie did his bump off and run off somewhere else, which he likes to do, and he fell victim to that, but everyone does. To have 61 in just a straight up raw base there, 47 tackles, 145 run meters is spectacular, and he's going to be a guy in your centers that you can lock in for the rest of the year, and just a super happy pick for me on this one. Speaking of gun wing fullbacks, they have dual Fletcher Sharp. My goodness, 68 for him. 21 tackles, 1 miss is great. He had that very similar stat line last week. He's got turnover tackles in his game. He's got 3 offloads. He's got line breaks. He's got try assists. He's got tackle breaks. And yes, not much kicking, but he's got the run meters like a center, basically, which is great. And he's electric. 61 he's averaging now. And he's going to be up at 585, 590 after this week. And it's going to be hard to pick him following their bye for sure, given he'll be in the mid 600, early 600s there pretty comfortably. And how many of these guys can you pick? And that's probably going to be the thing, that these are the Jets in the side. They are all incredible. But how many can you have? And they do come up against harder opposition very, very soon. Fletcher Sharp, incredible. Well done to anyone who jumped on from ball 1. I doubt there was too many, but 4% in that one. And Ponga owned by a lot. Thankfully, Greg not owned by a lot, 6%. But definitely plenty of people that are serious about NRL Fantasy do own him, and almost 20% for Lucas. So sad. I wanted him to be more pod. Farnworth, 55, just continues to get it done in base and his offloads and the like, and a bunch he just threw out the back. So 3 on the ground is not super ideal, but fantasy-wise, he'll continue to score mid-50s, in my opinion. When they're trying to chase games like you saw in here, that's where his game really evolves, unless he can get some type of attack, and that's where he can go nuclear. Otherwise, he can very easily get to the mid-50s score with tackle breaks, the offloads, and just his work rate. He still had 20 tackles for 1 miss on that left-hand side, and made some crucial tackles on Bradman Best, on Lucas and these guys, and Fletcher Sharp on that side. Adam Elliott, 55 for him and 49. What about the big line break? That was a tremendous effort. A couple of very lazy tackles in there, but that led to, I think, Fletcher Sharp getting the ball and ended up with that Lucas try, I think. So thank you, Adam Elliott, for that one. A great return from him. I was very, very impressed with his first game back after niggles and injuries and the like. So 49 minutes off the bench. Works pretty well, I think. Pretty cool to have Adam Elliott come off the bench as a middle forward. Dane Gagai picked up a try early on. 6 missed tackles still. So a little bit frustrating. He wasn't even up against Herbie. But it's in his game. He makes 26. So he's getting involved. That's for sure. Meters gained. That left-hand side is so dominant right now that it may be a little bit less for him. Just on the run meter side, and that's where you could probably just wait, see if his price actually decides to drop a little bit. The 50 kind of stabilizes things a bit, and he'll be fine going forward. Kaipi's Paul, what about the old sin bin for him in that one? I actually didn't know exactly. Oh, actually, no, it was a hit late or something like that. In one of the tackles. They looked back at it, didn't they? Yeah. 601k for him, 44. Did pick up a try assist, made good tackles, 43, but missed 5. Couple of really simple, coughed up lollies errors. They're about to go into contact, so he wasn't super ideal. Speaking about not super ideal, my trade in Tom Gilbert, he didn't play more minutes than Daniel Saifiti, so that hurts. And that's the only problem I see with Gilbert. Yes, he's pretty basic in terms of his runs at the moment. No tackle breaks, no offloads in this one compared to a couple and one offload last week, which helped him out, and the tackles were well down into the 38. So when you're playing 50 minutes, it's going to be hard. If he played the 56, he'd be well into the 40s, 42, 43 type of range, and that would be perfect. If he can be 42, 43 and 100 run meters, a couple of his tackles fine, get the odd tackle break and offload like we saw in round 1, then he'll be that 52 to 53 guy I was hoping for and was expecting for buying him. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be, and I very much hope that this is not the norm at 50 minutes and it's closer to the 55, 56, 57. And if we can get near 60 eventually, that would be great. But I was looking at the minutes for this side and it was just kind of spread across the board. When you had Connolly Lemuelu there on that bench, it obviously gave them an edge option. And, Finn got the HIA last week. And I just didn't think it would change Gilbert too much. For him to lose 6 minutes was a bit frustrating. And when he was on in that first, he played the first 31 or something and came back for 19. So it was a bit frustrating that he was off for so long. Especially when the game, it wasn't getting away from him either. I was like, you probably want your captain on there. But anyway, in that start, that was when the Knights put on, their 4 tries. And, he was standing, waiting under the 6 a bit. They obviously were defending a fair bit so he could get some tackles. But there's also a fair bit of that time where nothing was happening. And then, for him, standing under the 6. And then he went off, and that 10 minutes they kind of consolidated. It was just work through the middle, and then very similar in the second half, the Knights weren't able to score too many points. And when he came back on, he worked his tail off for another 17 points or whatever it was in 19 minutes. So in games that are going to be closer, I think he will continue to get those massive tackle numbers because the ball's going to stay in play. It's going to be worked through the middle a fair bit, and this Knights team can be very, very edge centric, left side, right side. And going from there. So I think Gilbert will be fine. The 43 is still, you bought him at a 39, so it's still 4 points above. It's dual position. He's got no buys coming up. There will be games that are higher. He had a lower break even. There's lots of good things still, but that 50 minutes is annoying. If we get it back to 56, he's close to the 50 mark, and it's basically 10 points of value. So hopefully he builds that up over the next few weeks, and he'll be fine. And that's what I'm hoping anyway. But Daniel Saifiti just copping some knocks in the last 2 weeks, but still came back on for 55 minutes. And, thinking about it now, if he missed out on coming back on, then we definitely should have seen some more Gilbert minutes. But, he was all good to come back on. Croker, 46. He had Schiller with 39 there, double for him. He's looking really solid. In this one, no tackle breaks, though. In the first game, he really got involved on that side. So well done to Schiller getting those couple of tries and helping my boy Ponga get one of those try assists. And Ponga still hasn't got a try yet, and he's averaging over 70. It's just wild how he can do that so well. Averillo, plenty of tackle breaks, shifting from the left-hand side to the right, plenty, with so much sideways movement. They never just built any pressure. Just get forward, quick play the ball, just never happened. Marshall King, 38. This is the worry with guys like him. He can have these high 30s type games, and obviously last week went for the 50. This one, not so much. Fair few negatives there. Neg 14 for him with 2 errors, a penalty, and also the 4 missed tackles. Oh, Hammer with 2 escape from in goals as well. Good on him on that one. But 38 for him, just going to be in a team that's not good enough, unfortunately. So I personally would sell Hammer. And I did actually mention that someone asked me how their team was going to set up. And I said, how do you get, it's like, how do I get Humphreys and all this sort of stuff and Horse? And I said, I think Hammer has to go. So I'm glad that's, 38 solid, but for him at that price point in this team, I don't think it's going to work out perfectly for you. So I'm glad that I gave that advice. Nichols, 38 in 31 minutes. Crossland, 38. Well, Nichols just happens to score a try on the reg. Crossland, 67 minutes. So still he's getting those big ones with Brayley there, and I think it'll continue over the next few months for sure, and we'll see what happens to Brayley later on. But Plath with 36, no try in this one. Low tackle numbers at 27, so yeah, it's probably an interesting one to show that the tackles are a fair bit lower. Decent amount through the middle, like he had Ray Stone get 37 tackles, so he was chasing the footy. Marshall King get 48, but on that left-hand side there, for Max Plath defensively, they didn't get as much ball. It was less Gagai, less Kai Pearce-Paul running it. But a lot of time, Kai was running at Plath. He'd drop it before he'd get to him, so that hurt with him getting tackles too. So that wasn't great. And yeah, you're just not going to get that base as well as you are in the middle. Even with the 80 minutes, like he was playing high minutes in the middle last year, and that's what you're hoping for. So I think he has to get some attacking stats, unless they're running at him and he's getting 40-odd tackles and he can get up to the high 40s that way. Leo Thompson, less minutes in this one, 35, was interesting. Ray Stone, 36, as I said, with 37 tackles. Healy, a solid effort, but had the 5 misses. Not much in attack for him in this game. He come up against some good defenders as well, but 31 in 66. We will see Finn back next week, so it was never a play anyway. But yeah, for my boy, I thought was going to come out and kill it. He played okay in a game where they got done pretty comfortably. I thought Cogger had some good moments. I'm not sure what the kicks were at the start. I don't know if they were kicking into the wind or something, but they were sitting on like the 30 and 40, and the Dolphins were starting their set like, a tackle in, and they were on the 40 or 50, so that was weird. Frizzell, man, the boy's going to get cheap. He ended up moving off to the edge for that last 10 minutes or so when Kai was off. Was the last 10 minutes? Close to it. But yeah, 23 for him. Not going to be the play. Have to wait till he gets heavy discount before we even look at him. Kurt Donahue with 23. 30 minutes for him. And yeah, good to see him in the middle again. Missed a couple of tackles. Had a turnover tackle. Had some tackle breaks. They were very much going side to side when he was on the park for that last 30 minutes. He came on and yeah, wasn't ideal. So if he did jump on, there was the risk. And that's what I thought. Like he played 42 minutes last week and got that 38. The risk was that, he probably picked up a few more minutes because there was the odd HIA and stuff like that. And he may not come on that early. In this scenario, that was the case. And he didn't come back on because there weren't many issues with their squad. 30 minutes, I think he'll still, make some decent money. You'll probably average close to that 30 you've got over the 2 weeks, with some a little bit higher, PPM better in some games. He's obviously got the not the risk, the benefit of if Hammer went down, he'll go to fullback. If JMK goes down, he'll go to 9. There's a few benefits like that having him in your team. So if you did buy him, not the end of the world. He'll still make some cash, and yeah, it might be 100k. It might not be like 200. It could have been if he averaged mid 30s or something like that. But we'll see. We will see. And then Sarko, 22, back to somewhat normal at times last year. Brayley, 19. See how cheap he gets. That's for sure. Tupou, 18. Looked like he played a little bit better, but still not perfect. Jacob Saifidi, only 23 minutes, so it's an increase on some of those guys. But yeah, Leo was so low. And then Cody Nicarima, like I said, there's just a lot of sideways. But sometimes when he ran straight, it worked out for their attack. But yeah, they're very lackluster, aren't they? And then 33 minutes for Felice Kafusi through the middle. So that's that. That's the fantasy stuff. And then I think I'm going to loop. I just chucked it in there right now. But Ponga, Lucas, and Marzu in Supercoach for myself. If you had Best or Sharp, then great news for you as well. Dane Gagai, 71. Really solid. If you went for Gilbert, if you had him from the start, sweet. If you bought him this week, 48. Very similar feelings to what we saw on the fantasy side of things. Asako, 42. Plath, 40. A little bit frustrating with those guys, and Hammer with 25. Again, if you're on him at fullback only, he needs to be out of your side for these guns that you've got. Ponga, Walsh, Turbo, they're all killing it. And yeah, we'll get those ineffective offloads moved up, and I've decided to just throw Ponga in. And remember, guys, with the best 18 this year, if you are looping in someone, You then get your auto emergency off the bench. They move into your best 18, and then one of them drop out. Whoever ends up the lowest score, if it's not your auto emergency and it's someone else, then they'll drop out and your auto emergency stays. That's basically how it works. It's a little bit easier this year to loop. You're not exactly taking that lowest score off the bench. You're taking, one of them drops out of your 18. Super easy to loop. Anything over sort of 110, 120 this year feels like a definite. With safety, guys like, I want Cleary as my captain. He could get injured easily. He could you just have a normal 60-odd game, could have an 80, and you're best to take the loop on that one. So that's that video, guys. The Thursday night game, done and dusted. We've got a couple of cracking games tonight. If you like watching good players, that's for sure. We've got the Eagles with Turbo and the like, and we've got Panthers with Cleary, which will be super fun. So thanks so much for coming to this one. Hope you enjoyed last night's game and it benefited you, and we'll catch you in the next video.